Hi, I'm Britt.
And my name is Alissa.
And this is SkeleTales.
And this is the podcast where we strive to answer the age-old question of, is my dead grandma watching me?
We do. We also share true tales of the strange, unusual, and paranormal. What are we talking about today, Alissa?
Britt, this week we are talking about the elephant in the room, Halloween. It's coming.
Yes.
And so we are telling stories at least tangentially to do with Halloween. Maybe Halloween's mentioned in them. What is?
Yeah, Halloween is somewhere in the story.
Okay. Yes, I tried to find all stories that happened on Halloween, near Halloween, somehow involved Halloween. And I am very excited to tell you what I found.
Ooh, please do. I'm ready.
Should I get right into it? All right. Okay, so my first story comes from Randy. And he says, when I was 12, me and my best friend were out late on Halloween, early All Saints Day. Halloween was on Friday, and this was almost 3 a.m. on Saturday morning. We were walking home after spending a few hours creating mischief around town, including rolling the little police station. The town, what does that mean?
I think TP rolls.
You would know. You know the lingo from your bad girl history over there, Britt. I don't know. Just innocent little Alissa doesn't know the slang for vandalism. The town only had about 1,500 people, so the police station was only the size of a large storage building. We were bummed because we were not ready to go home. As we made our way down the street, I had a brilliant idea. I suggested we explore the old haunted house. The house was built in the 1800s. It was a large 3-story Victorian with balconies and large columns flanking the large double front door. Legend said that after the last member of the original family died, the house was rented out twice, and both times the family left in the middle of the first night in the house with only the clothes on their backs and refused to go back to get their stuff, even leaving their clothing.
What?
Yeah. The house sat empty for almost 50 years. Neighbors had always reported strange sounds and lights coming from the house. My buddy looked at it for a minute and finally said, okay, I could always talk him into doing anything. We walked up and forced the front door open halfway and squeezed in. I checked my watch. It was exactly 3 a.m. Immediately, we heard some growling coming from the next room over. I told Greg to watch out for the dog. I figured if we ran into it, we could tame it, but just in case, let's avoid it. Confident. We should have taken heed. We were in a large foyer. There was a door to the right, left, and then offset to the left in the center. On the right wall was a large flowing staircase. Since the growling was coming from the left, as best as we could tell, we went to the right. The growling followed us, but always stayed one room away. But going back, we still couldn't see a dog, and the sound had moved another room away. We made our way around the bottom floor. It was a large circle. As we did, we began to hear other sounds that we couldn't identify. Then we moved to the second floor. The growling followed us. The other noises increased. There were 4 bedrooms on this level. As we went through them, the armoires, dressers, dressing tables, chiffierobes. I don't know what that is. Chiffferobes.
I've read it in so many books, and I have no idea how to pronounce it.
I've never encountered this word in my life. I'm going to assume it's some piece of furniture. And other furniture were still full of clothes and other personal items. Mattresses were still on the beds, well, what was left of them. And all the rooms had water damage to the ceilings and walls. There was some smaller yet still fancy staircase to the 3rd floor. We headed up. The first thing we noticed as we started up the stairs was that there was a huge hole in the roof where it had collapsed. Parts of the roof littered the floor. Right as we stepped on the top of the landing, we were swarmed by a group of bats. They were just normal insect bats, but it was still unnerving. We stepped over the debris as we inspected the 3 bedrooms on this level. We entered the middle room and disturbed a flock of blackbirds. which also swarmed us. With the growling getting louder, the other sounds getting louder and more numerous, the bats and the blackbirds really set us on edge. We finished looking at the last room and decided to leave, since we were both getting nervous with all the commotion going on. We made our way back down, disturbing yet another set of bats on the second floor, which I wondered why we didn't disturb them on the way up. We got down to the main floor, looked around one last time for the dog, or at this point, I wondered if it was a coyote because that was no dog growl. Everything was quiet other than the growling and the other noises, until I stepped out the front door, and there were several cop cars and fire trucks all over the lawn and street. I looked to my right, and I could see where the house was on fire. As a matter of fact, I could see a hole in the side of the house large enough for a man to step through to the dining room. Startled, I backed back into the house and looked in the dining room. No hole, no fire, nothing. I stepped back through the door and was almost ran over by 2 firemen with a hose headed into the house. It seemed like they didn't see us. We walked across the lawn and stepped behind the police line as all the neighbors came out to see the commotion. We were not seen until we stepped behind the police line. A cop told us it was too early for kids to be out and we needed to get home. We agreed. I looked at my watch again. It was 3:03. We walked out at the exact time we walked in. I was confused, but decided not to question it. The cop verified that it was just 3 a.m. The house burned down to the ashes that morning. Mom picked me up that afternoon, and we had to go by one of her friends' houses. As we walked into that lady's house, I felt this strange vibration type feeling. It wasn't a vibration. That's just the only way I can describe it. I've never felt it before, but I have felt it a lot since. I didn't understand what it was, but it quit as soon as I left. This happened several times over the years. I learned to ignore it until I was 16. I walked into a friend's house and that I'd never been to before, but there was a lot of us there. We were going to watch a movie. I stepped into her house and there was that feeling, but this time it was a different feeling. It was still a vibration type feeling, just different from what I had experienced before. When suddenly a couple of people screamed. They said they saw a scary looking figure looking through the doorway watching them. That's when our host said her house was haunted. At this point, I connected the feelings, the haunted house, and the spirits. A few more years passed and I still didn't know anything about the vibration feeling. I was at another friend's house one day when his mother pulled out a Ouija board. I knew better, so I went into the other room. A few moments later, I felt the second feeling strongly. The second weirder vibration feeling is the one that he's referring to. I suddenly understood what was going on. I got up and stepped back in the other room and told the mother to close out the session. She said she was just talking to Bruce, a good spirit she had talked to several times. I told her, no, that spirit was evil. I don't know how I knew that. I just did. But before I even said it was evil, the planchette said, kill Randy. What would a Ouija board sound like? Kill Randy. Kill Randy.
Yes,
That's
one.
it. But before I even said it was evil, the planchette said, kill Randy. That's me. Mom asked why. It said, he's dangerous to me. That's when I said it's evil. And as soon as I said it's evil, the planchette flew across the room, missing my head by just 1/4 of an inch. I didn't flinch at all, even when it hit the wall hard enough to leave a small hole in the wall. I walked over to the board, placed my hand on it, and said, you must leave and you are not allowed to ever return here. There was a large electric feeling and the board jumped about 2 inches off the table, and she never contacted that spirit again. The strange thing about this is that I had never had any kind of paranormal events until I went through that house. I really believe something happened to me in that house that led me to where I am now. I know how movie-ish this story sounds, but this is how it happened.
Ooh, good story, Randy.
Randy?
Holy shit. The haunted house with the menagerie of animals in it.
I know.
Fire burning it to the ground. Does Randy have he's got superpowers?
I don't know if he has superpowers. It sounds like they went to like a different portal or a different dimension or something because they were in the house.
Spirit realm or something?
Well, they went into the house at 3 a.m., spent like a half hour there, rustled up like several flocks of bats for some reason, which I'm like, the first flock, I would have been out of there. And he's just like, oh, they're just insect bats. I was like, Britt, did you write this story? Is this you? Like that alone, the flock of birds. And then they left at 3 o'clock. The house was on fire, apparently from the outside, but not from the inside. What if it had burned to the ground while they were in there?
Would they have just died? Stuck in this weird time interdimensional place?
Or would they have just walked out, turned around, and the house is like not there at all? It's just ashes, a pile of ashes and cinders or something.
Oh, that's fascinating. Great story. I love it.
Do you have a story you want to tell me?
We are on the same wavelength again, Alissa. Yeah. Just wait till you hear my story. Woo-hoo. This comes from Brandon.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Brandy. I was like, no.
Too similar. No, Brandon. It was Halloween 2014. I'd recently read a book about the top 10 most haunted places in Cayuga County in upstate New York. Do you know where that is?
Yeah, you pronounced it right. Well, I know it's Cayuga. Yeah-ish. It's near Rochester.
Well, in that area, there is an old Erie Canal slave house, which was about 10 minutes from me, and it was on the list. So me and 3 of my friends decided to go check it out. The old Erie Canal is all dried up now, so nobody has been there for years. We waited until 3 a.m. and made the short drive to the house. The windows and doors were all covered with plywood. Me and one of my friends ripped the plywood off of one of the windows, and I went inside. Nobody else would come with me. They said they were all way too creeped out. Once inside, I began looking through boxes and old stuff that hadn't been touched in at least 80 years. Little pause there. That's like my dream, to enter an old abandoned house and rifle through old
oh my
belongings.
God. I love that idea.
Well, Brandon actually ended up finding some really cool things. He found some old photos and other trinkets that were in the boxes.
Was there a chicory-doo?
What the heck is a chicory-doo?
The piece of furniture I couldn't pronounce.
Schifferobe.
Yeah,
Schifferobe.
Was there a schifferobe?
No.
Okay.
I found some really cool old photos and other trinkets that I brought to the window to show my friends. They were still too scared to go inside, so I proceeded to walk through the house, which was very creepy. I heard some noises coming from somewhere in the house, but it didn't really bother me. I decided to go upstairs, and as I was about 5 or 6 steps up, I hear someone running on the second floor above me. It sounded like they were running towards me, coming right at me. I hauled ass out of there and jumped out the window that I'd come in. I cut my arm pretty bad in the process and was bleeding like a lot, like I'd been cut by glass. But when I looked at the window, there was no glass in it. We ended up going straight back to my house. My other 2 friends went home, and it was just me and my friend Amy. We'd been home maybe 20 minutes when she got up and went to the bathroom at the end of the hallway to the right. I was in the living room on the couch watching TV, and that's when I heard a loud bang from my bedroom. That was on the other side of the house. I yelled, "What was that?" And Amy came running from the bathroom. She thought that I'd fallen because we'd had a couple of drinks that night. We decided to go together and look in my room. I opened the door, and my dresser, which is usually on the other side of the room, was completely flipped upside down and on my bed.
What?
Somehow this huge, heavy dresser had been thrown across the room. We both got chills from head to toe. We decided to sleep on the couch that night. After that Halloween, I felt like something was always around me, like an evil spirit had attached itself to me or something. For the next 3 years, I had all kinds of bad stuff happen to me. Oh, God. I got stabbed in the head.
Oh,
someone shot at me. I was in 3 car accidents, and my best friend died.
Oh, no.
I was telling a friend about the incident and all the bad things happening to me, and he told me that his aunt communicated with the spirit world and might be able to help. I never believed in that stuff before, but was willing to try anything. His aunt came over and did a spiritual cleansing on me, and about a week after she did, I saw a shadow of a spirit several times, but when I'd look again, it was gone. I don't think the cleanse worked, though, because to this day, I still have bad luck and always have bad stuff happen to me. Is this thing attached to me for life?
That's my worst nightmare. That's why I don't like fucking with this stuff, because I don't want to accidentally attach myself to an evil spirit or allow it to attach itself to me.
I'm all about abandoned houses. I'm all about snooping through old shit, but I really don't want something coming home with me.
No, I hear what you're saying now when you said Randy had superpowers, because it almost like they both went through these creepy houses, had something sort of change them, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds like Randy mastered his a little bit. Like he was sensitive enough to understand the differences. And then once he realized, and then he's like, oh, fuck no.
Yeah.
I know what this is. And he put a stop to it. Where poor Brandy. What's her name? Brandon? His name?
Yeah, he's like lost. He's like something's like a literal devil on his back is just like, doesn't know how to get rid of it. Alyssa, do you have another story to share?
Yeah, Britt, that was a great one. Let me see. All right, so my next story reminded me a little bit of our listener friend, Steven, who writes in very wonderfully. This is not nearly as well written, but I guess it's because he's a police officer, and that's what it reminded me of.
Nice.
So this one comes from Finelli, and he says, cop here. I was dispatched to a house at about 1 a.m. for a prowler. We get there and talk to the residents. Long story short, they saw two people wearing masks, one Jason-style hockey mask, and I don't remember the other one, in the yard across the street. It was like 2 weeks past Halloween, so it seemed believable. We checked the area and don't see anything. 10-8. I guess that means all clear. It's worth noting the residents didn't seem drunk, high, crazy at all. A few times we get a similar call and get out there to find the resident is strung out on meth and seeing things. However, back to the story. An hour later, we get called back. This time, we have our dispatcher on the phone with them while we are surrounding the area. We, about 5 of us, are in perfect position. Dispatch tells us they can still see the prowlers in the next yard. We start to move in. Dispatch says the residents saw the two prowlers wave and move into the shed. Guess where I am? That's right, next to the shed. I give verbal commands, bang on the door, and nothing. Fuck it, fine. I'm coming in after you. Doors open and empty. I even think to check for a trap door. Nothing. It is raised about 4 inches, so there isn't even a possibility of a door leading out. Again, check the area and find nothing. I talked to the residents. They said, as I was moving in on the shed, the two put their finger to their lips, giving the shh sign, and then they both waved. They moved into the shed as I was next to it. We went over every possibility trying to come up with an explanation. If the caller was just fucking with us, they had no prior history of it, as in repeated calls for service at the address. And I'm not much of a paranormal believer, but I can still appreciate a situation where I cannot logically explain what just happened. Doody, 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 doody.
The imagery of these prowlers in masks looking at the caller with the finger to the lips. No. Nope.
I would think I was going insane. It would make me feel insane. Like that seems like the intent. Be like, we're fucking with you. We're right here. The police? No. Shh.
And they had enough detail to know what kind of masks they're wearing. That is awesome.
The police, they could see the police right next to them, I'm assuming, right? So they see these prowlers and the police don't see them somehow?
Yeah.
Freaky. Maybe there's a reasonable explanation, but
Ooh, good
I
story.
just like that one. I thought it was fun. I have a couple good ones. So this one is from Shar, and she says, I lived in a small apartment. When you walked out of the bedroom, you were in the living room / kitchen, and you had to go to the right and down a short hallway to reach the bathroom. One October, I had put this jack-o'-lantern decoration on top of my fridge. I didn't turn it on because it had an obnoxious green strobe light inside it. Also, the button on it was really stiff, so it took some effort to flip the switch. Long story short, I got up one night to go to the bathroom. When I was done and walked back out of the bathroom, that jack-o'-lantern had somehow turned itself on. The switch had been switched all the way to the off side before I'd gone in the bathroom, and I still have no idea how it managed to turn itself on. I flipped it back off, and it didn't do it again. But I have a history with Halloween decorations getting moved or flipped on. Another time at that same apartment, I'd left a small posable skeleton sitting on the couch. When I left it there, it was looking forward. When I went to wash dishes, which my small kitchen was part of the same room, and happened to look over my shoulder, the skeleton's head had turned like it was staring at me. No! I took it and put it out in the storage room on the balcony after that. I like that one because we have our fake skeletons. We walk Jamesel, and he's in the car with Mitch right now. So
Beulah is the name of my new skeleton because
Beulah.
I left Bert at our old house in Texas inside the wall, and Beulah is our new one. Although she's got a broken leg, so little gimpy gal.
Okay, so this one is pure Halloween. The whole thing is Halloween.
Ooh,
okay?
Love it.
All right, so this one comes from Squirtle Squad. And they say, I know it sounds cliche, but this really did happen on Halloween. I don't remember my exact age, but I do remember that I was a Charmeleon for Halloween that year. I think that's a Pokemon.
Oh, Charmander?
Oh, maybe they...
Charmeleon.
Is that one?
Is made. I think it's from the Charmander family.
Oh my, yeah, I figured you would know because I know your kids are really... I wasn't sure if it's chameleon and they spelt it wrong, but I think it might be...
We might get some hate mail from this, but okay, go ahead.
I was a Pokemon for Halloween that year.
Okay.
It was hot being Houston in Texas, but I enjoy the heat, so it really didn't bother me that much. Anyway, my dad had taken me trick-or-treating around our suburban neighborhood that night. We were passing between two homes with garages that faced out onto the street. They were corner homes. These houses were known for giving out the best candy and having the coolest costumes. I knew them as the scary houses. Being the wimp that I was, I kept my head down and tried to scurry past them, knowing that they wanted to scare me. When I had walked far enough, I turned around to see my dad laughing. You can come back, sweetie. It's okay, he said. Everyone was looking at me. Then I noticed a guy standing behind my dad. He didn't have any skin. He was all muscle, dripping blood all over the concrete. It was Halloween. I thought it was a costume. Then he walked through my dad. No! Like a ghost floating through a wall, as if he wasn't even there. My dad looked confused as he saw my face twist into pure horror. I quickly turned and ran as fast as my little legs could take me. In cliche fashion, I tripped as I was running. I shoveled my candy back into my bucket along with dirt and grass from the neighbor's yard because I was shoveling so fast. Then I got on my feet and I bolted to my house. When I got home, I locked every single door and window and started crying. My poor father was still outside. I remember talking to my mom and her calming me down after that. She let my dad back in. And when I mentioned it to him, he said he hadn't seen anything and looked genuinely concerned. I never saw the skin man again, but it creeps me out to this day.
Wow, good story. That story reminded me of one Halloween, and we were trick-or-treating. Liam was probably 10 or so. No, it doesn't matter. It starts raining, and so we're like, oh, we got to book it back home. So we're running. He tripped on a Halloween decoration, and his whole bucket of candy goes flying out into the puddles of rain. Oh, it was so sad.
Poor
He
baby.
scooped it back up. Half of it was ruined because
was
it got
he crying?
Oh, he was a sport about it. We only really let them eat like 10 pieces of candy.
I know, right?
So.
When I was a kid, my brother and I remember going to a Easter egg hunt, not Halloween, Easter egg hunt. The Easter egg hunt starts, my little brother might have been like 4 at the time, and his bag got snagged on a tree. And he was like just snagged on this tree the whole time when all the other kids were scooping up all the eggs into the baskets and he didn't get any. And so he was so upset. He started crying and then put the plastic bag over his head. And then my mom and grandfather were freaking out. But I remember that to this day. It's devastating. I was devastated for him.
I love that story. Amazing. So do you remember last year you talked about the history of jack-o'-lanterns and about how Jack sold his soul to the devil and wasn't allowed to live in heaven or hell, so he was cursed to walk the earth with like a lit up turnip or whatever, and that's how we have the jack-o'-lantern pumpkin?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, I thought it'd be fun to see where some of these other Halloween traditions came from.
Ooh, okay.
I got a lot of my information from a website called the Anglian Gardener from the UK.
Okay.
Really obscure, I know, but worth it. So I don't know if you're aware, Halloween used to be called Samhain and was celebrated by the Druids of ancient Britain. It marked the end of the harvest and the start of the darker half of the year. The eve of Samhain, October the 31st, was the night that the Lord of Death judged the souls of the departed. In 1834 AD, the Pope ordered all pagan rituals to be Christianized, so Samhain became All Hallows Eve, which is now Halloween. Samhain was a favorite time back then of telling the future. The Druids used the quote-unquote sacred apple for this fortune telling, which then turned into now bobbing for apples, where, you go fishing for floating apples that are in a bowl.
Oh.
The author who's writing this article said, "My gran used to call having a number 2 having a bob. So every time I was a child and somebody mentioned bobbing for apples, they found it incredibly hilarious."
That is really funny.
I'm not really sure how they're supposed to tell the future with the apples, but that's where bobbing from apples came from. So back in the oldie times, death was always an ever-present threat. So Halloween was a good time to find out when you're gonna die. So one way they did this is they would pull stones from the bonfire ashes, examine them, and if somebody's name was on the stone, boom, they're gonna die that year. There was a thing you could do as a family. You would find a clean ivy leaf with no spots or stains, put them in a glass of water overnight. If the leaf is still spotless the following morning, boom, you got another year of being alive. If it has any spots on it at all, dead this year. Proven facts.
Jesus. Why would you play these games?
I know, just don't even do it. Just leave the ivy alone. On a happier note, Halloween was thought of as being a good time to predict marriages and husbands as well. It's a really mystical time of year. In Britain, they would do a thing called the Nutcrack Night, where girls would look for signs of their future husbands in the way the nuts burned on a kitchen fire. It doesn't really go into detail what the nut would do, but this one is kind of interesting. If you hold a mirror on Halloween and walk backwards down the stairs of the basement and don't die doing it, you could see your future spouse in the mirror that you're holding as you're walking down the stairs basement. They'll be at the bottom of the basement. That sounds kind of terrifying, actually. Don't do that. Don't try that one, people. Not worth it.
I think I would fall down the stairs if I saw anybody in the back. And what if they're a real fuggo? And you'd be like,
that's how you see ghosts. That's not your future. You're going to marry a ghost in the basement? Okay. Special foods and meals were often made for the souls of the dead or deceased ancestors. And these were called soul cakes, and they were made for the wandering souls. And so people would go around giving out cakes because they went to Solon is what it called. Went to Solon.
Oh, they went Solon.
Went Solon.
Souling, like instead of trick-or-treating, they'd go out souling.
Exactly.
Getting soul cakes. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Cakes. So perfect segue to trick-or-treating. It's not really sure where trick-or-treating originated. So the soul cakes is one idea. In the 16th century, there are records of geysers, quote unquote geysers, or disguisers in Scotland, who were young men in costumes and masks who went door to door with turn-up lanterns hidden by their disguise, and they would say, "Oh, Scottish accent, damn it. Oh, please. Do a Scottish accent so I know what I'm doing.
Scrooge McDuck.
Scrooge McDuck. Please." Did I just go Irish again? Hold on. I can do it.
The amount of lip movement that happens before you actually talk when you're getting into these accents is extremely entertaining. The brogue.
The brogue. Please to help the geysers. That's Scottish, right?
Yeah, you nailed it.
They say, "Please to help the geysers," and were rewarded with apples, nuts, and copper coins. Another possibility that happened in England as a derivative of children collecting a penny for the guy. So traditionally involving making an effigy of Guy Fawkes, who tried to blow up the Parliament in 1605. So as part of the gunpowder plot. Money was collected in this way and then spent on fireworks to blow off on November 5th, which is the Guy Fawkes Day.
Remember, the 5th of November.
So in any case, trick-or-treating was taken overseas by British and European immigrants over to America. And there are reports of trick-or-treating in America and Australia starting around the 1940s. And it was all over the U.S. by 1955. Oddly, British, who began the whole Halloween thing, doesn't really celebrate Halloween over there. And so it's just kind of been a more recent phenomenon that they've started celebrating again and has been re-exported back to the UK from the US after it had died out in the UK.
Oh, I was wondering if the UK had the same traditions as us, given that you're citing a UK blog. I was like, oh, I don't even know what Halloween looks like over there.
Well, an interesting thing that they do differently over there is they'll do the carved pumpkins like we do over here. But they don't cook pumpkin to eat over there. So
they are sane.
Pumpkin pie is a foreign garbage dessert.
It is.
And most Brits have never even tried pumpkin pie before.
They're not missing out on anything.
I agree. You might as well just eat a pumpkin flavored loogie.
You don't like pumpkin pie either?
I don't like pie at all.
Pumpkin pie in particular, I will eat pumpkin bread. But that's pumpkin pie is the most, it's vile. It is the disgustingest food I've ever put in my mouth. I hate it so much. And everyone loves it. Except for you, my friend. That's how we're friends.
I don't like pie in general. It's real gelatinous and give me a brownie or a cake instead.
It's not my favorite, but I can choke down a piece of apple pie or a blueberry pie. Pumpkin pie, that ain't happen. I've tried my whole life because I'm the fascination. Blech.
I know. If there's a homemade pumpkin pie, I'll try a sliver just to be courteous. But
Nope.
if that's a store-bought, get that shit away. Not even gonna look at it. Nope.
No, it doesn't matter if it's homemade or not. I won't like it.
And that is a little bit of some Halloween lore there for you. Some bobbin for apples.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Trick-or-treatings.
I did think there was something along the lines of trick or treat, that if they didn't give them a treat, then they were going to ransack their houses or break their stuff.
I almost went down that rabbit hole. That actually is an American tradition. Surprise, surprise.
Okay.
It took hold around the 40s and 50s from young boys basically being hoodlums and disrupting and terrorizing neighborhoods and towns. And it was a ploy to get them to be busy and do something other than mischief. That is why trick or treat, the saying, has come about.
And then I want to say there's something called Ragamuffin Day or something too, that if you look that up, if you Google Ragamuffin Day, you're going to see horrifying, early turn of the century costumes.
Oh, nice.
I can't remember how that weaves into it, but I want to say that was part of it as well. And it all sort of just got all mixed together in the big old cauldron to create modern day Halloween. Interesting. I learned something today. I love it. Very, very cool. If you want to write to us and tell us how much you also hate pumpkin pie and how it's trash, please do that. Send it to our hotbox at SkeleTalesPodcast@gmail.com. You can also call us on the hotline.
302-689-DEAD, 302-689-3323. Over on the hotline, you can tell us your favorite Halloween candy. We would definitely want to hear about that.
Yeah. Or you could tell us about your most terrifying Halloween experience.
Oh, even better.
A friend's, a story you've heard. We would love to hear that as well. You can also go join us over on our social medias. We're on SkeleTales Podcast on all the things, Facebook community, over on Facebook, Instagram. We also have a merch shop.
Yes, SkeleTalesPodcast.etsy. I am posting up new merch every day. We've got some new dolls. We've got some new stickers. So go check that out over there. You can also become a Patreon member, patreon.com/SkeleTales We have never before heard and seen content over there, and you can join for as little as $1 a month. Is there anything else, Alyssa?
No, just haunt you later.
Haunt y'all later.
Good
night.
Snuck it in there.